Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 95 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Herbalist of Faith Series, Sorcery, Witchcraft, Pharmakeia. This episode is actually part 3 of a part 4 series speaking to herbalists of faith on some of the practices found in herbal medicine that are forbidden for us to participate in according to scripture. It's important for us as herbalists of faith to stay in tune with our Creator and understand His plans not only for our lives, but understand His purpose for giving us plants in the first place and how we are supposed to use them, and also stay away from practices that go against His word and His will. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's topic. Now, y'all know I'm an educator, so get your pens, papers, notepads, back of a receipt, whatever you can find to write some notes down. If you are new to this podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you are a returning listener, thank you for your continued support. I definitely appreciate it. Tonight, again, we are speaking to the herbalist of faith. And as always, if you're not an herbalist of faith, don't worry, stick around. You got some stuff that you can learn as well. I'll never turn anyone away. I always love the opportunity to be able to share my faith with people, as well as give them, some tips and better understanding on how they too can better their own lives. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's topic. When defining a term, it's always important to make sure that you understand the original meaning and intent of a word. This helps you to better understand it and understand how to use it. So when you hear me talk about etymology, it's the study of how the word was used, what its original meaning and intent was. So we're going to look at that for these terms that we're talking about tonight. Number 1 is sorcery. Sorcery is defined as witchcraft, magic, enchantment, act or insistent of sorcery, supernatural state of affairs, seemingly magical works. It's from the old French word sorcerer, and that means sorcerer or wizard. The word also comes from the medieval Latin, which is sotiaris, which is a teller of fortunes by lot, or a sorcerer, literally one who influences fate or fortune. And then also from the Latin sors, which means lot, fate, or fortune. The Webster's definition of sorcery is the use of power gained from the assistance or control of evil spirits, especially for divining as well as magic. Now let's look at the word witchcraft. The etymology of the word witchcraft, it is an old English word, and it originally meant witchcraft, WICCECRAEFT, which means witchcraft or magic. And it's the wick, WICCE, is also known as witch. Craft means power or skill, right? So witchcraft is witch, power, and skill. The Webster's definition of witchcraft is the use of sorcery or magic, communication with the devil or a familiar spirit, an irresistible or fascination, rituals and practices that incorporate belief in magic and that are associated especially with neo-pagan traditions and religions such as Wicca, WICCA. Now let's look at the word pharmakeia. Etymology of the word pharmakeia comes from the Greek, which is a healing or harmful medicine, a healing or poisonous herb, a drug or poisonous potion, magic, dye, raw material for physical or chemical processing. The etymology of this word extends to pharmakeus, which is a preparer of drugs, poisoner, or sorcerer, and pharmakon, which is a drug, a poison, a charm, a spell, or an enchantment. The definition of pharmakeia, it has multiple meanings. It is a Greek word, and so it can mean medicines, poisons, hallucinogens. And in ancient Greek, pharmakeia referred to the entire range of medicines, poisons, and hallucinogens, as well as those who provided them. When it comes to sorcery and witchcraft, in the Bible, pharmakeia is often translated as witchcraft or sorcery. It does appear in the Old and New Testaments, including Galatians 5:20 and Revelations 18:23. So what is the history of witchcraft and sorcery and pharmakeia, and how did it impact herbal medicine? Sorcery or witchcraft has been closely intertwined with herbalism since the ancient times. The practice originated in ancient civilizations where the line between medicine and magic was often blurred. Let's look at the origins of sorcery and herbal medicine. We'll start with the ancient roots. So early civilizations, including Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and India, used plants for medicinal and spiritual purposes. While many herbal practices were rooted in healing, some involved invoking spiritual powers and conducting rituals believed to manipulate natural forces. In ancient Mesopotamian texts, such as the Ebers Papyrus in Egypt, we see the dual role of herbs in medicine and magic, where healers were also priests or shamans performing ritual rites to drive away evil spirits. Now, with the Babylonians and the Greeks, the term pharmakeia comes from the ancient Greek, originally referring to the use of drugs or potions. It later took on the connotation of magical practices or sorcery, often linked to harmful or manipulative use of herbs. In Greek mythology, figures like Circe and Medea used herbs in their magical potions for transformation as well as enchantment. From the biblical context, sorcery involving herbs is often condemned in the Bible. The Old Testament prohibits the use of enchantments or divination, found in Deuteronomy 18:10 through 20, and the New Testament warns against the misuse of pharmakeia in Galatians 5:19 through 21 and Revelation 18:23. So let's look at the practices of sorcery in ancient herbal medicine. Number one is divination and rituals. Herbs were used in divination ceremonies where specific plants were burned, consumed, or applied in rituals to summon spirits and to predict the future. Examples of this includes using hallucinogenic plants in South America to manipulate an outcome. Now, another use was for poisons or curses. So some practitioners created potions or poisons to harm others, control behavior, or to exact revenge. So basically back in the day in ancient Greece, they used hemlock a lot of times to poison people or to kill them. It was also used for idolatry and offerings. So herbs were an integral part to sacrifices and offerings to false gods, often combined with incantations and or charms. So let's look at modern manifestations of sorcery in herbal medicine. Now, the blending of herbalism and sorcery is definitely not new. Like I spoke of before, ancient civilizations often associated powerful effects of certain plants with supernatural forces. And over time, herbalists took on dual roles as healers as well as spiritual intermediaries. So an example of this would include in Babylon, herbalists invoked deities during treatments. In Egypt, the priest used incense and herbs in rituals for divine blessings. And in Greece, the term pharmakeia referred to both healing practices and harmful magic. Now today, this overlap persists in some modern herbal practices that align with biblical warnings about sorcery, often depending on the intent and the context. That is really important. What is the intent and the context? And this is one of the things I'll talk about a little later on, that you really need to focus on when determining whether or not this is something you should get involved in as an herbalist of faith. But we'll talk about that as we go down a little further. Another modern manifestation of sorcery in herbal medicine are the use of herbs in occult practices. So ritual smudging or burning for spiritual cleansing. So they would use herbs like sage, palo santo. These are burned not only for antimicrobial effects, but often to cleanse spaces of negative energy or to invoke spirits. Practices rooted in animistic and shamanistic traditions. Another one is modern spellcraft. So people using herbs such as mugwort and mandrake or lavender. They're often sold in occult shops for spells like love potions, protection charms, or even wealth attraction. And they often involve supernatural forces. Another one is psychedelic shamanism. So there are hallucinogenic plants that are being used in people's spiritual journeys. And so, for example, like peyote are used in rituals to induce altered states of consciousness for spiritual guidance and or visions. And then there's a growing trend of psychedelic therapy, which aims for spiritual awakening, but it often parallels with ancient sorcery practices. And then another practice is energy healing with herbs. So chakra alignment and aura cleansing. And this is where herbs are marketed to balance your chakras or to clear spiritual blockages, blending herbalism with Eastern mysticism. Another one is crystal and herb combinations. And these are rituals combining herbs and crystals with a promise of amplified spiritual energy, protection, and or fortune. Another practice is astrology and herbal correspondences. And this is herbs that are tied to zodiac signs and planets. Practitioners often assign herbs to the celestial bodies, claiming influence on health or destiny. For example, Mars is associated with energy. And so herbs might be recommended around Mars for strength. Another practice is invocation of deities or spirits. And so herbs are often used in pagan or Wiccan rites. Their rituals use herbs to honor gods, goddesses, or spirits. Offering and ceremonial burnings often accompany these practices. Another one is herbal altars. So herbs are placed on altars and ceremonies to connect with spiritual deities, blending herbalism with idolatry. And then another one is magic potions and elixirs. So some modern herbal blends are marketed as potions for mystical outcomes like eternal youth or protection, and they're often accompanied by occult imagery or incantations. So as you guys can see, it's a lot of ways that herbs are being used with these different types of mystical practices. Another modern manifestation of sorcery and herbal medicine is the misrepresentation of the healing power of plants. So there are a lot of people out there that believe that herbs are the ultimate healers. And some practices elevate the herbs to divine status, claiming that they can heal the soul or connect to the universe, removing the Most High or Yah as the ultimate healer. Another technique, herbal divination, is where you just throw out some dried herbs to predict the future. And these practices blend herbal medicine with mysticism. So it's very important, with an understanding of all these different practices that I just spoke about, it's very important that you define herbalism and herbal medicine and you differentiate that from sorcery if you are an herbalist of faith. And so the distinction between legitimate herbalism and sorcery lies in, like I explained before, the intent and the application. So with legitimate herbalism, you're basically studying plants for their chemical properties to promote physical healing, rooted in science and stewardship. Sorcery uses plants with the intent of spiritual manipulation, harm, or evoking supernatural entities. So you want to, if you are a person of faith in this thing called herbal medicine, you want to make sure that you align your herbal practices with biblical principles and maintain your integrity while avoiding associations with sorcery or idolatry. Because trust me, people, will think automatically that you're a witch. I can't tell you how many times people come up to me thinking that, and I'm absolutely not a witch. And there are even people in the faith that believe that herbal medicine or herbalism is witchcraft. And I don't blame them because of a lot of the practices that are being done, but they're being overshadowed from the original intent that the Most High had given us to use for plants, his original intention on what these plants are supposed to be used for. And it's very simple. It's very simple. He said in his scriptures, I have given you the herbs for the healing of the nations. It's very simple. They're not for anything else. Manipulation of outcomes, power. They're not to be worshipped. All of these things is very simple. But because those that have the marketing dollars and the marketing power, it seems like a lot of their practices in herbal medicine are being boosted so far up that people don't really realize that that was not the original intention of herbs or plants. And even some, maybe it could be due to ignorance or what, but some well-meaning herbalists subscribe to some of these practices, not realizing that it is a direct violation of the scriptures. It goes against what they're supposed to be believing and practicing. So let's look at, what does the Bible say? We talked about some of those practices. What does the Bible actually say about these things? The Bible warns against practices that place trust in created things like herbs rather than the creator. Like I tell people, I worship the creator and not his creation. None of his creation. Not the plants, not human beings, none of that. I worship him, right? And so in the scriptures in Leviticus 19:26, it says, "Ye shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall ye use enchantment, nor observe times." Right? So you shouldn't be eating anything with blood, cook your meat, okay? But there are some rituals where sacrifices are required and people have to drink blood and all these other type of things. We should not be doing that. In Isaiah 47:12, it says, "Stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth." Get rid of it. Right? Now, there are tons of scriptures, tons and tons of scriptures, if you do the study, that talk about how we are not to seek supernatural results. We should not do that. We should seek Yah's provision and what he has for our lives, and seek him for wisdom and direction and guidance and protection and healing and all of that. We're not to seek anyone else but him. But he's given us these tools. He's given us this medicine to help us when we get off balance, right? When the body gets out of balance, he's given us plants and herbs and the understanding to know what they can do so that we can balance our bodies back out and continue on with our purpose, which is to be of service to mankind. That's your purpose. If you didn't know, you're like, oh, I don't know what my purpose in life is, to be of service to mankind. Now, the path that you need to be on is trying to find what your giftings are. What are my giftings so that I can use them for the glory of the Most High, for the glory of Yah, right? Now, the Bible does acknowledge the usefulness of plants for healing, but it does warn us against their misuse in idolatry or magic. In Ezekiel 47:12, it says, "The fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine." In Revelation 21:8, it says, "But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone." And we know where that's at, right? We know where that's at. So, as an herbalist of faith, it's in the scriptures. We just have to read it. It really is there. We just have to understand that the Most High keeps everything simple so that we can understand it. It's not meant to be confusing. It's not meant to be, I don't really know. I'm not sure how, no, he makes his rules and his word, his laws, statutes, and commandments very clear because he wants you to follow them. And at the end of the day, he wants you to worship him. He wants you to give him the credit because he did. He created you. He created this earth and everything in it. So we shouldn't be making statues and worshiping plants and all this stuff. We should not be doing that as herbalists, nor should we be practicing a lot of these new age practices and things that have found themselves in herbal medicine. So as modern herbalists of today, what are our responsibility? What is, I should say, our responsibility? Now, herbalism today primarily focuses on health and wellness, but those who utilize it should be mindful of avoiding practices that could align with sorcery, such as mixing herbal remedies with occult rituals, using herbs with harmful intent or spiritual manipulation, promoting herbs with supernatural claims outside of the realm of science, right? Or faith in Yah, using herbs solely for their God-given, or I say Yah-given physical and medicinal properties, avoiding involvement in rituals, divination, or energy manipulation, and emphasizing prayer and reliance on the Most High as the ultimate healer, because he is the ultimate healer. The herbs are to support the processes in the body. They're not to take over. They're not to open up other realms for you to bring in other things. That's not the original intent. And we as herbalists of faith have to know that. If you are an herbalist of faith, a person of faith, period, please do not feel swallowed up or feel like you have to dive into all these other practices. Even if you have a business of your own, don't feel like that you have to subscribe to this stuff, whether it be to make money or whatever. You have to trust the Most High as your source to provide you with the right people. And trust me, there's billions of people on this earth. Not everybody is subscribing to the use of sorcery and divination. There are people out there, because I have people reach out to me all the time. They're like, I'm so grateful that I have found an herbalist of faith, a Bible believing herbalist, rather than somebody that is like talking about the energies and spirit work and all that. No. You come in my house, you're not going to see no altars of no kind, nowhere. I don't subscribe to any of that. Why? Because I understand what the herbs are for, and I understand what Yah meant when he said how we were to use them. So don't feel external pressure. We are in this world, but we are not of this world. So do not feel the pressure to subscribe to these practices. If you do, and you open up yourself to these realms, then you open up yourselves to the consequences of whatever those realms bring. Because now you've given the enemy legal right to operate not only in your life, but in the lives of your family. And so you don't want that in your home. You talk about energy, you don't want none of that in your house. Now you're trying to figure out how to get demons and devils from crawling upside your walls, and your kids spitting up and the dog doing backflips, the fish jumping out the bowl. You don't want none of those problems. So it's better just to focus on the science behind it. More importantly, Yah's intent behind it. But when I say science, I mean the foundational sciences, okay? Botany, plant anatomy, physiology, human anatomy and physiology. This is what I mean when I say science, okay? Because I know they're coming up with all other kind of sciences and all that. That is not what I'm talking about. The basic understanding of the structure and the function of the plants and the structure and the function of the human body and what happens when they intertwine and how does healing happen? How does restoration happen? Focus on that as an herbalist of faith, because at the end of the day, people want results. They want results. And so we can't take herbal medicine and make it some hoodoo and all this other stuff, because now you're relying on external forces rather than relying on the Most High and focusing on really truly understanding the anatomy and physiology of both of his creations. And then understanding the chemistry that occurs between the two so that the body can balance back out. And then if you want to talk about intuition or you want to talk about discernment, then you want to make sure that you're hearing the voice of Yah when it comes to knowing a little more about that person that's sitting in front of you so that you can actually help them. Know what they're saying, know what they're not saying, or he knows the whole body. So you may have come up with this protocol and you're like, okay, it looks like because there's lung issues here, we're going to do this, this, and this. But he knows that, well, if you don't balance the kidney out, then this could happen. So he'll whisper that to you. And you'll hear his voice because you have a relationship with him. You can hear him. Right? And you can test what you hear. You know that he's not going to tell you to do something opposite of his word, law, statutes, and commandments. So we have a responsibility as herbalists of faith to make sure that he is first, the Most High is first. And all that get an understanding. Seek ye first the kingdom of Yah, right? Seek him first. And then he'll give you understanding as well, even outside of what you may be reading in textbooks and everything else, because he has the blueprint for everything in this earth. He has the blueprint for the plants. He has the blueprint for the human body, and he knows exactly what's needed to balance each other out. He sees us every single day. He sees what we're doing, what we think we hiding, you know, he knows. So ultimately, we have to lean and rely on him and stay away from these practices that invoke spirits, that speak to other spirits. You know, you're not talking to grandma, you're talking to a familiar spirit. And at the end of the day, if we're going to keep it simple, right? All of these practices rely on someone else other than Yah to get the job done. And if that is the case, run and don't look back. Okay? So be encouraged. I hope this series is actually helping you. I'm trying to give you some practical information and not just opinions and all of that, but something that you can chew on as an herbalist of faith to really think like, man, you know, I kind of was going this way, but now that you say that, you know, I need to go back and reorganize some things. I need to restructure some things. This is the winter time. Everything is kind of going dormant. This is the time to really sit down and think about how you're going to come out in the spring. Okay. How you're going to spring forth in the spring. And so during the fall, take this time to really pray and to fast and to get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Restructure your business if you actually are using some of these practices that are not good. They're just really not. I don't know any other way to say it. And then restructure it. Ask the Most High to help you. How can I do this to where people can benefit from what I'm doing? And what do I need to say? What do I need to do? What did you put me here for? Take this time to do some introspection. Take this time to nourish yourself, strengthen yourself, build up your digestive system. I know this is a side note, but I want to say this. Take this time to don't waste it. Do not waste this time. Enjoy it. Snuggle up with your family, good friends, watch a good movie, but also take some time to study the Most High's word and his intentions. Also take time to study the plants. Really switch your focus from all this supernatural forces stuff and really start to chomp down on the anatomy and physiology of both the human body and the plants. Really start to chomp down on the chemistry, phytochemistry, biochemistry, so that you can understand how they interact together. Because at the end of the day, if people are healthy and they're well and all that, they can fulfill Yah's purpose in the earth. That's really the ultimate reason why people need to get healthy. So that you can fulfill your individual divine purpose in this earth. Whatever the Most High has for you and has set for you and has spoken over you from the beginning of the times of your life, or when you were just a seed in your mother's womb, that's what you need to be focused on. But if you're not healthy, then you can't fulfill that. So as herbalists, that's really what it all boils back to. You got to get healthy. You got to align with what the Most High is giving you to do, so that at the end of the day, all right, you can fulfill your ultimate purpose in the earth. And it sounds simple. It's like, it can't be that simple, but it is that simple. And it is outlined in the scriptures. So take this time to work on yourself, develop yourself, cleanse yourself from these practices, repent. Okay, cancel the assignment that the enemy has placed on your lives, any covenants that you might have entered into unaware. Okay, ask the Most High to sever those covenants, denounce the work of darkness, and move forward in the path that the Most High has for you, because he has a plan. If you are listening to this podcast, it is not by accident. Even if you don't believe, it is not by accident. So I pray that I have been obedient and I have planted the seeds into your mind so that you can start on a path, not only of healing for yourself, but also to be able to help others to be their best selves as well. So if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media sites at The Demystified Herbalist. And until next time, family, stay blessed. And I'm out.